What is this filthy pregnant woman doing at my wedding? Mary's voice cut through the cathedral like a blade, her emerald eyes blazing with fury. There's no way she was invited. Before the stunned congregation could process what was happening, she lunged at the heavily pregnant woman, her manicured nails clawing as she struck with vicious precision. The crowd gasped, jewelry glinting under the stained glass windows as guests recoiled in horror. The groom, billionaire Caleb Blackwood, stood frozen at the altar, his face drained of all color. But the assault wasn't the most shocking part. It was when the battered woman slowly raised her head, blood trickling from her split lip, and spoke with quiet determination. "Go on, beat me all you want." Her voice carried through the cathedral, steady despite her tears. "But today, I will expose every one of your secrets. I will reveal everything. This wedding ends now." The orchestra fell silent. The whispers died. Every eye in the room fixed on the mysterious woman whose story was about to shatter everything they thought they knew. This is the story of Sophia Coker, a woman whose life changed forever the day she met a kind-hearted billionaire. What seemed like destiny's blessing soon twisted into a nightmare when his ruthless fiancé threatened everything she held dear. It began on a rain-soaked Tuesday morning. Caleb Blackwood, CEO of Blackwood Industries, was racing against time to the most crucial meeting of his career. One signature today would secure a multi-billion-dollar merger, the culmination of 15 years of relentless ambition. The storm clouds matched his urgency as he navigated his Aston Martin through the flooded streets. At a secure facility downtown, he collected the confidential merger documents, papers worth more than most countries' GDP. He slipped them carefully inside his Armani jacket and hurried back to his car. Then came the thunderous roar of an 18-wheeler, its massive tires sending a tsunami of muddy water crashing over him. His $1,000 suit was ruined, his pristine shirt now a canvas of grime and regret. Standing there, soaked and desperate, Caleb spotted salvation in the form of a small dry-cleaning kiosk tucked between two towering buildings. Behind the weathered counter stood Sophia Coker, her dark hair pulled back simply, her gentle eyes widening at the sight of his distress. "Don't worry, sir," she said softly, already reaching for her equipment. "I can help you." For a man accustomed to boardrooms full of sharks and billion-dollar negotiations, her simple kindness struck him like lightning. As she worked with quiet efficiency, transforming his disaster into presentability, Caleb found himself studying her face, the concentration in her eyes, the way she bit her lip when focused. That morning, covered in mud and rescued by a stranger's compassion, was the moment their worlds collided. Neither could have predicted that this chance encounter would unravel secrets dark enough to destroy lives, and stop a wedding before vows were ever spoken. Caleb found himself returning to Sophia's kiosk far more often than necessary. At first, he told himself it was convenience. Her work was impeccable, her prices fair. But soon, he realized he was drawn to something else entirely. Her unguarded warmth in a world full of calculated smiles. Sometimes she would deliver his clothes personally to Blackwood Manor, walking up the grand driveway with her modest bag, seemingly unintimidated by the palatial estate. Caleb, accustomed to guests who fawned over his wealth, found her quiet dignity refreshing. One evening, as she handed him a perfectly pressed tuxedo, her composed facade finally cracked. Her mother was dying, she confessed. Medical bills were drowning her small savings. She hadn't wanted to burden him with her troubles, but desperation had a way of breaking down pride. Without hesitation, Caleb arranged for the finest specialists, the best treatment money could buy. When Sophia tried to protest, he simply said, "Let me help you the way you helped me." That gesture changed everything between them. Hospital waiting rooms became their secret meeting place. Long drives in his car turned into confessions shared under starlight. One rain-soaked evening, as they sat in his Bentley overlooking the city, Caleb reached for her hand. "I want to know everything about you, Sophia. Your dreams, your fears, your story." She turned to him, her eyes shimmering. "Soon," she whispered, before leaning in to kiss him. That night, love found them in the back seat of his car, two souls from different worlds discovering they fit together perfectly. Caleb thought he'd found a woman who loved him for who he was, not what he owned. Sophia believed she'd finally found someone who would protect her and her ailing mother. Neither realized they were being watched. Neither knew that someone would kill to keep them apart. Mary Ashford had been part of Caleb's life since childhood, at least on paper. When they were just children, their fathers had shaken hands over brandy and sealed their children's fate. What Caleb's father, Theodore Blackwood, never discovered was that the Ashford Empire had crumbled years ago. Behind the designer clothes and charity galas, Mary's family was bleeding money. The engagement wasn't about love or even business partnership, it was about survival. That evening in the Blackwood Mansion's oak-paneled study, the confrontation was inevitable. "You will marry Mary," Theodore's voice boomed, his fist striking the mahogany desk. "This alliance has been planned for 20 years. You will not destroy it for some working-class infatuation." Caleb's mother, Eleanor, elegantly draped in pearls and disappointment, added her cold assessment. "Caleb, darling, you must think of the family legacy. Mixing with common people, it simply isn't done." "I've found someone I love," Caleb said quietly, his jaw set with determination. "Someone who sees me as more than a bank account." His father's laugh was bitter. "Love? Love is a luxury for poor people. We deal in partnerships, in power, in permanence. Mary understands this world. Your seamstress does not." For the first time in his adult life, Caleb felt the true weight of his golden cage. They weren't interested in his happiness, only in maintaining their empire's facade. Upstairs in her private suite, Mary pressed her ear to the heating vent, listening to every word. A slow, predatory smile spread across her perfectly sculpted features. So, Caleb had fallen for some nobody. How convenient. If she played this right, she could eliminate her competition and secure her future in one perfectly orchestrated move. The next morning, Sophia's world shattered. City officials had demolished her kiosk overnight. No warning, no compensation, no mercy. Her life's work reduced to splinters and dust. Caleb found her in the rubble, tears cutting tracks through the grime on her cheeks. Without hesitation, he made a decision that would change everything. "Come home with me," he said, taking her hands in his. "You'll have a place at the manor. You'll never have to worry about shelter again." Sophia became a quiet presence in the vast Blackwood estate. She cooked simple, delicious meals, tended the gardens, and tried to make herself useful. For Caleb, her presence transformed the cold mansion into something resembling a home. But not everyone welcomed her. Mary had moved into the manor under the pretense of wedding planning. She treated Sophia like hired help, assigning her endless menial tasks with barely concealed contempt. "Since you're already here playing house," Mary would say with sugar-sweet venom, "you might as well earn your keep. Scrub the floors, polish the silver, and make sure my shoes are spotless." Day after day, the humiliation continued. Sophia endured it all in silence, afraid that complaint would cost her the only sanctuary she had. Weeks later, Sophia noticed changes in her body. Morning sickness that left her dizzy, exhaustion that sleep couldn't cure. A pregnancy test confirmed her deepest fears and greatest joy. She was carrying Caleb's child. But with the wedding approaching and Mary's cruelty escalating, Sophia made a desperate decision. She would hide the pregnancy. She had to. If they discovered her secret, she was certain Mary would destroy her completely. What Sophia didn't know was that Mary had already discovered the truth, and she had no intention of letting either Sophia or her unborn child survive. Mary's discovery of the pregnancy test was like finding the perfect weapon. As she held the small plastic indicator, her mind raced through possibilities, each more sinister than the last. "Pregnant," she whispered to her reflection in the bathroom mirror. "How inconvenient for you, darling." The wedding was only weeks away. The invitations were sent, the cathedral booked, millions of dollars committed to the event that would cement her future. She would not let some pregnant nobody destroy everything she had worked for. That night, while the mansion slept, Mary made her move. She slipped through the darkened corridors to the kit coker, a small vial clutched in her perfectly manicured hand. The liquid inside was clear, odorless, and according to her contact, completely untraceable after a few hours. She found Sophia's prepared meals in the refrigerator, humble portions carefully stored for the next day. With surgical precision, she added several drops to the soup, stirring gently to ensure even distribution. "Sweet dreams, Sophia," she murmured, replacing the container exactly as she'd found it. The next morning, Sophia woke feeling unusually weak. Her pregnancy symptoms seemed more severe, but she attributed it to stress and exhaustion. She completed her morning tasks, cleaning, laundry, garden work, before finally sitting down to eat. Within minutes of finishing her soup, agony tore through her abdomen. She doubled over, clutching her stomach as waves of pain crashed over her. The room spun, cold sweat beaded on her forehead. Something was terribly wrong. Caleb's world collapsed when his driver burst into the boardroom with the news. He abandoned his merger meeting, billions of dollars forgotten. and raced through traffic with desperate recklessness. He found Sophia convulsing on the kit coker floor, her face pale as death, her body racked with seizures. Without thinking, he scooped her into his arms and ran for his car, his heart hammering against his ribs. At Mercy General Hospital, Mary played her part perfectly, the supportive fiancée comforting her distraught partner. She held Caleb as he paced the corridors, whispering empty reassurances while secretly meeting with a particular doctor in the shadows. Dr. Marcus Webb was drowning in gambling debts. When Mary approached him with a briefcase full of cash and a simple request, he saw salvation. "Make sure she never leaves this hospital alive," Mary had instructed coldly. "I don't care how you do it. Make it look natural." But standing over Sophia's unconscious form that night, syringe in hand, Dr. Webb couldn't bring himself to complete the act. Something about her peaceful face, the way she'd whispered, "Thank you," when he'd helped her earlier, it stopped him cold. Instead, he woke her gently. "Listen to me carefully," he whispered urgently. "Someone paid me to kill you tonight. Someone with enough money to make my problems disappear." Sophia's eyes widened in terror. "Who would? I don't know, but they're powerful and they're dangerous. If you want to live, you have to disappear. Tonight. Never come back to this city. Never contact anyone from your old life. They think you're dead. Keep it that way." As Caleb wept in the corridor, believing he'd lost the only woman he'd ever truly loved, Dr. Webb helped Sophia slip out through the hospital's service entrance. To the world, Sophia Coker had died of complications from food poisoning. The truth was far more dangerous. She was very much alive, carrying Caleb's child, and completely alone in the world. Sophia fled into the night like a ghost, her pregnant body weak from the poisoning, her heart shattered by the loss of everything she'd ever known. The village where her mother lived was 300 miles away, too far for someone with no money and no resources. As she stumbled along a deserted highway, rain beginning to fall, headlights suddenly blazed in her eyes. A sleek black sedan pulled over, and an elderly man stepped out. "My dear, what on earth are you doing out here alone?" Professor James Harrison was returning from a conference, his kind eyes immediately seeing her distress. Too exhausted to lie, Sophia collapsed into his passenger seat and told him everything. The poisoning, the fake death, the pregnancy, the powerful enemies who wanted her gone. Professor Harrison, a widower with grown children, made an immediate decision. "You'll come home with me. My estate is remote, secure. You'll be safe there until the baby is born." For 8 months, Sophia lived in hiding on Harrison's sprawling property in the mountains. She helped with his research, tended his gardens, and slowly regained her strength. Her daughter, a beautiful baby girl with Caleb's dark eyes, was born on a snowy December morning. But as little Emma grew, Sophia's anger grew with her. Every sleepless night, every milestone Caleb missed, every moment of their daughter's life he was unaware of, all because of Mary's evil. Meanwhile, in the city, Caleb had become a shadow of himself. The merger had fallen through. He barely slept, rarely ate, and conducted business meetings like a man walking through fog. Even Mary's constant presence couldn't lift the darkness that had settled over him. The wedding had been postponed twice due to his grief, but Mary was growing impatient. She needed to secure their marriage before Caleb discovered any inconvenient truths. 2 years after Sophia's supposed death, Mary finally set the date for their cathedral wedding. The invitations went out to the city's elite. The stage was set for the union that would cement her future. She had no idea that in a mountain hideaway, a woman she believed she'd killed was planning her own return, carrying proof of secrets that would destroy everything Mary had built. The morning of the wedding, Sophia stood before the mirror in Professor Harrison's guest room, studying her reflection. 2 years had changed her. Motherhood had given her strength, betrayal had given her steel. She was no longer the frightened girl who had fled into the night. "Are you certain about this?" Professor Harrison asked, bouncing Emma on his knee. "Mary Ashford is dangerous. If she tried to kill you once, then she'll try again," Sophia finished calmly. "But this time, I'm ready for her. And this time, the world will be watching." She had spent months planning this moment, gathering evidence of Mary's crimes, preparing for the confrontation that would either free Caleb from his golden cage or destroy them all. The cathedral was packed with the city's most influential people when Sophia slipped inside. She wore a simple dress that couldn't hide her condition. She was pregnant again, a consequence of one desperate night when she'd returned to the city to see Caleb, unaware he was being watched. As she walked down the aisle, murmurs rippled through the congregation. Some recognized her, others whispered about the mysterious pregnant woman disrupting the wedding of the year. At the altar, Caleb's face went white as snow. His legs nearly gave out. "Sophia," he whispered, his voice breaking. "But you died." Mary's reaction was pure rage. In that moment, her perfect mask slipped completely, revealing the monster beneath. She launched herself at Sophia with feral fury, screaming accusations and denials even as her actions confirmed every word of Sophia's planned revelation. "You destroyed my kiosk," Sophia called out as Mary struck her. "You poisoned me. You paid a doctor to kill me. You've been living a lie built on attempted murder." The congregation erupted in shocked gasps and frantic whispers. Cell phones appeared as guests began recording the spectacular collapse of the city's most anticipated wedding. As security moved to separate them, Sophia played her final card. "And Caleb," she called out, her voice carrying over the chaos, "meet your daughter." Professor Harrison appeared at the back of the cathedral, carrying a 2-year-old girl with unmistakably familiar dark eyes and Caleb's distinctive jawline. The silence that followed was deafening. In that moment, 3 lives hung in the balance. Caleb, finally seeing the truth about the women in his life. Mary, watching her carefully constructed world crumble in real time. And Sophia, who had risked everything for love and justice. The wedding was over, but their story, the real story, was just beginning. The investigation that followed revealed the depth of Mary's crimes. Dr. Webb, consumed by guilt, came forward with evidence of the attempted murder. Financial records showed payments to city officials for the illegal demolition of Sophia's business. Security footage confirmed her presence in the Kit Coker the night of the poisoning. Mary Ashford was arrested on charges of attempted murder, conspiracy, and fraud. Her family's remaining assets were seized to pay for her legal defense, finally completing their fall from grace. Caleb discovered that his father had known about Mary's family's financial ruin, but had hidden it to maintain the engagement. The revelation shattered their relationship permanently, but freed Caleb to make his own choices. 6 months later, in a small ceremony attended only by close friends and Professor Harrison, Caleb and Sophia were married in the same garden where their daughter Emma took her first steps. Sophia's mother, now healthy thanks to continued medical care, walked her daughter down the aisle. As they exchanged vows, Caleb whispered, "I'm sorry I couldn't protect you sooner." Sophia smiled, her hand resting on her growing belly, their second child, conceived in love rather than desperation. "You're protecting us now. That's all that matters." Their story became a cautionary tale whispered in elite circles, a reminder that love could triumph over manipulation, that truth would eventually surface, and that sometimes the most unlikely heroes emerge from the darkest circumstances. Sophia Coker, once a struggling seamstress, became Sophia Blackwood, co-founder of the Harrison Blackwood Foundation for Women's Safety, an organization dedicated to protecting vulnerable women from the kind of predators she had faced. And in the mountains where she had hidden, Professor Harrison continued his research, occasionally babysitting his honorary grandchildren and marveling at how one act of kindness on a dark highway had led to such an extraordinary conclusion. Love had not conquered all, justice had. But for Caleb and Sophia, surrounded by their children and the family they had chosen, it felt like the same thing.